Hello Libra, it's Maggie the Irish Gypsy here with your February 2026 mid-month general reading. We are looking at the second half of February. Thank you so much for being here. I hope everyone's doing well, and happy Valentine's Day to those of you who will be celebrating this day, and those of you who won't, never mind, it's just another day. As always, thank you so much for being here, taking the time to watch these videos. If any of you are interested in a personal one-on-one reading with me for yourself or as a gift for someone else, email me for more information, Maggie1McGuire@gmail.com. You can click on the description of this video below for those contact details as well. I can usually get back to you quickly. I cover all areas of life, love and romance, career, work, money, investment, health, family. I do quite complex relationship and partnership issues. And I also offer 6 and 12-month overviews, which take a look at what's coming in all the major areas of your life for the next 6 or 12 months. Depending on how far ahead you want to look, you can order them any time of the year. But of course, the end of one year and beginning of a new year is popular for this. So something to keep in mind. I'm usually quite timely about the scheduling of personal readings, as this is what I do full time. So if you're interested, email me. Okay, Libra, air sign of Libra. Let us see what the second half of February is bringing in for you. We have you, Queen of Swords, Aquarius, Gemini, Libra, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus. Showing up as a queen, but in a general reading, it's not gender specific, so it can be male as well. Showing up in your own clear, astute, direct energy. Some of you, it may involve another air sign as well, or someone who manifests the character traits of the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords, in the tarot, she has kind of an interesting history. She can come across as kind of tough, very direct. You know, she doesn't suffer fools. She can see BS coming a mile away and has no patience for it. Very sharp with that sword, with communication sometimes. And sometimes emotionally can come across as a bit reserved. The reason for that is that the archetypical history for the Queen of Swords is that she's had a long road, and that road hasn't always been easy. There's been a lot of difficulties and challenges, and it's left its mark on her. With a wealth of wisdom, but also a bit on the guarded side. I think if the Queen of Swords has a challenge, it's probably in personal relationships. You know, when we've had a tough life or gone through a lot of difficulties or pain or betrayals, you know, I think the challenge is in balancing, trying to keep open, but having healthy boundaries and protecting ourselves as well. So that's that Queen of Swords. So next we have the Six of Cups, a card typically associated with the past, roots of origin, childhood, things we have a history with, people, places, situations, sometimes family, sometimes it can go back to childhood, but things we have history with. Sometimes it can represent, you know, how we were in those days, right? Looking at everything through rose-colored glasses, with that complete childlike openness that anything and everything is possible and good. Next, we have the Tower, an unexpected, significant shakeup, or the destruction of something. Something is falling apart. And as difficult as it is to accept that sometimes, this is a major arcana card. This is divine timing and orchestration that's meant to shake something up or bring something down or allow the something to crumble and fall away because it's no longer in our best interest, in our path. So significant, unexpected change. It looks like something that either you had a long history with and or perhaps were very idealistic about, has been shaken right down to the core, or something has happened to cause it to, you know, fall apart. The key to understanding and dealing with some of the more challenging cards like Tower and Death is that they represent endings that will bring about necessary transformation. Resisting them doesn't do any good because that's life. That's God, Spirit, angels, and guides. That's the universe. That's spirit bringing about changes that, whether we see it at the time or not, are for our greater good. This tower was hit by lightning, but if it was truly solid, stable, and rooted, it wouldn't come down. The fact that it does or has, doesn't show so much in this deck, represents that there was a flaw in it somewhere. It's time to move on, and it's time to maybe not embrace the change or the ending, but to accept it and go with it, because that will greatly help us being able to move through it a little bit easier and a lot quicker than if we're resistant to it. Now, your crowning energy for the second half of February, Libra, is the Ten of Swords. I mean, this is it's a tough reading, because obviously something has ended or come as a big shock here, with the Tower. Something is coming to an end. It's crumbling. And regardless of what that is, some of you may feel betrayed. You may feel stabbed in the back, thrown under the bus, discarded, which the Ten of Swords can represent as well. But tens represent completion and finality, just like that Tower does. And the Ten of Swords, as you know, you're an air sign. Swords is governed by air, which governs this, how we think, our belief systems, ideologies, perspectives, our ideas. So the Ten of Swords, while it may be challenging or painful, is coming to the deeper understanding and awareness and acceptance that something is at an end. Whether we anticipated it or not, something is coming to an end. The worst has happened, and now it is time to get up and move on. We can grieve, we can heal, but try not to get too stuck in it, because tends represent this circle has closed out, right? It's time to move on. I mean, it's challenging. I never really like pulling cards like this, particularly in a general reading, because it's not personal and I can't look at it in a personal way as I would with one client. And the fact that it shows up in a general reading means that, a fair number of Librans, enough Librans will be going through this who are watching the video that it's going to resonate with them. But I think we've all been through at least once in our life, difficult times like this where something comes to an end, perhaps in an unanticipated or unexpected way. And sometimes, like with personal relationships, be they love or family or friends, or even a job maybe that you had a history with and they just unexpectedly lay you off or pass you over for someone else. It's that feeling like, how could they do that to me, or how could that person do that to me, or how could I be in this situation? But again, as challenging or painful as it is, the Ten of Swords and the Tower is like, this is difficult. It's something I'm definitely going to have to heal from because it hurts. But it is for necessary change and necessary transformation. So let's clarify a little bit that Ten of Swords. Seven of Cups and the Nine of Cups. So remember, we have the Six of Cups, and one of the definitions or one of the interpretations of the Six of Cups is looking at things through rose-colored glasses, very much like we do, like children do, right? The world is open and full of endless possibility and achievement. And the Seven of Cups is also very idealistic. The Seven of Cups is, each one of the seven cups is filled with something that represents possibility and potential, the most perfect version of that possibility and potential. It's cups, it's water energy, it's very emotional, but it's not entirely a grounded card, practical card. I mean, everything begins with dreams. We all have to have our dreams. The Seven of Cups is kind of a, fantasizing, daydreaming, building castles in the sky and imagining only the most perfect way that things could work out. And the Nine of Cups is, our wishes granted, our wishes fulfilled, getting everything we want. But of course, this is clarifying the Ten of Swords, which is what happens when, the thing that we thought was so beautiful and so perfect and, we were just really kind of immersed in and enjoying, has come to an end. The rug's been pulled out from under our feet, and again, there's no real clear indication here as to, what this specifically is or even what area of life it is. but it looks, significant enough or intense enough that there's a lot of emotions connected to it. So for many of you, this may be about, a relationship, albeit a romantic relationship like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or a family member, or a best friend, or again, even a job, where you thought everything was great. You thought everything was fine. You're just, walking through your day, through your week, your month, your years, and thinking that everything is great. And then all of a sudden, something happens here, with the Tower card, that makes you realize it's not, and that something was going on underneath, and you just didn't see it. And again, there's this feeling of challenge and hurt, and perhaps some of you feeling, maybe even foolish, or, but don't. I mean, I've walked enough road of life myself, and I've certainly worked with, hundreds of clients that, I was so stupid to trust her. I was so stupid. No, you're not. We enter into relationships and partnerships regardless of the nature of them. We enter into them with good faith, right? That's to be expected. If somebody doesn't fulfill their end of the agreement, regardless of the agreement or the relationship, then that is on them and not on you. It's unfortunate that you have to bear the brunt of the pain and the ending here. But entering into a relationship or partnership or agreement in good faith is what we do. So, all right, let's move on to that Queen of Swords. Judgment and the Magician. So here this is kind of being on that knife's edge of making a pretty significant, perhaps life path altering decision, but this is altering your life path anyway. But I think with Judgment and the Magician is, how am I going to deal with this? The choice remains for you is to not whether or not this is happening, it's just happening, or it's happened, but how you're going to deal with this. What are you going to make of this? Are you going to be reactive? Are you going to be proactive? How are you going to deal with this? What are you going to make out of this? What can you create from this? Let's take a look at that Six of Cups. Tricky reading, difficult times. Again, I think we've all been through some things like this in some area of our life, once or twice in our life. But it's always difficult to navigate. This is kind of one of those readings I kind of hope doesn't resonate for very many of you, but this is what Spirit's giving me. And again, because it's a general reading, the area of life it's resonating in for you will vary, the details will vary, and the intensity will vary too, although it does look significant, but for some of you it will be more intense, some of you less intense. So clarifying that Six of Cups is the Fool and the Sun. Yeah, I think some of you, and herein is the challenge, although it's understandable, I think some of you may, for a minute at least, hopefully you don't get stuck in this energy, may fall into this trap of going, oh, I was so stupid. I was so stupid to, buy into that. I was so stupid to think that, I mean, I don't know. It's, again, it feels like an understandable reaction that many of us have when, someone betrays us or pulls the rug out from underneath our feet, and we feel stupid, frankly. We feel foolish. We feel like we were, we were too idealistic about it. We were looking at things through rose-colored glasses. Perhaps we didn't see, or perhaps, we did see some things, but we kind of ignored them and, just kept moving forward. Yeah. For some of you, this is feeling, betrayed or taken advantage of by a person or situation you least expected it from, and for that, I'm sorry. Let's take a look at the Tower. But ultimately, and I, it's always hard to be the bearer of bad news, because sometimes, people look at you negatively for it, but ultimately, it's not really bad news. It's difficult at the time, or it's very painful or considered bad at the time, but the Tower is coming down for a reason, right? for some kind of necessary change, some kind of necessary transformation that Spirit sees and knows. The Four of Swords and the Wheel of Fortune. I mean, the Wheel of Fortune with the Tower, divine timing and orchestration. It's either divinely orchestrated or divinely allowed for the purposes of change, the purposes of necessary change and necessary transformation. Because for whatever reason, you're not meant to be on this path any longer. And this combination is kind of Spirit's way of saying, you know, we must embrace, we must let go of the control of it. It's happening, and it's all about what do I make of this moving forward? What can I create moving forward? What decisions can I make? How can I move through this dignity and grace as possible? And looking forward, what can I create moving forward? The Four of Swords. It may be for some of you, not all of you, but it may be for some of you that there was some cracks that you saw before. It may be that there were some red flags in this situation, and it may be that you just papered over them or didn't want to look at them, or, you know, maybe trivialized them. In clarifying the Tower, we have the Wheel of Fortune and the Four of Swords. So obviously, Spirit is saying this is for a reason. The Four of Swords is a card that forces us to kind of take a step back and to rest, to renew, to rejuvenate ourselves, and to get a different perspective in doing so. Because often when we're in the midst of something, we can't see all the truthful aspects about it. And it's not until we take a step back or get a little bit of distance that we can look back and have a different perspective. And that's part of what that Four of Swords is about too. It's a card of taking a step back. I mean, the Four of Swords, of course, comes after the Three of Swords in the tarot. And that Three of Swords is similar to the Ten of Swords in that it represents, you know, pain, heartbreak, breakup, separation, disappointment in something, right? And so then the next card, the Four of Swords here, we're taking a step back to kind of lick our wounds, so to speak, and kind of start the healing process and kind of get a different perspective on that. It may be that this is something that happened as a way of forcing you to take a step back at this situation and see what you needed to see before, but either didn't or weren't willing to accept yet, and to get a break. All right. Advice, guidance, feedback from Spirit. It feels like, again, Spirit either orchestrated or allowed this because they wanted you out of it. They wanted you pulled out of it for some reason. Death. I mean, we have, boy, this is kind of intense, Libra. We have the Tower, we have the Wheel of Fortune, we have Death, we have Judgment, lots of major arcana cards. So this is a pretty significant time for most of you in varying degrees of intensity and detail. Death as advice is, you know, there isn't anything we can do to change it. The choices we make now are about how we move through this and what we do on the other side of it. Because death says we must accept the inevitable end. That's what death is, right? But in the tarot, this is a card of rebirth and transformation. It's about letting go of the control of what we thought was going to be and the way that it was going to be, and opening ourselves up kind of to the unknown of Spirit going, okay, I don't get it, and this is hard, but obviously you want me on a different path, so let's go. The High Priestess, trusting your instincts, your intuition, your connection to the divine. Gut instinct is another word for that. Paying attention, being quiet. The High Priestess is a very spiritual card, a very spiritual court card. spiritual person. And of course, as we know, some of the most spiritual people are the quietest people because they have that connection. But in order to have that connection and to hear that, you have to be in that listening mode and trusting that. Your dreams during this time may be important too, particularly if they have the same theme. The Nine of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles represents somebody who's worked really hard to get to a place of independence and self-sufficiency, self-confidence, and self-value. They've worked hard enough that they no longer need to obsessively seek external validation from other people. And in situations where they're not respected, not seen or valued or appreciated, even though it might be difficult, they don't necessarily compulsively need that external validation, and they certainly don't need to put up with, that kind of disrespectful treatment. So again, it's about loving yourself enough because you've worked hard to get to that place, so you can move on. The Hangman represents that, we have a different perspective. Our eyes are open now in a way that they weren't before, and even though what we see, the reality that we see may be difficult or painful, we understand that the Hangman is about having the perspective that, I'm going to let go of this now, even if it's challenging, even if it hurts, for greater long-term gain, because it's in my best interest to do so, even if it's difficult. Even if it feels like you're in the period of stasis, of kind of suspended animation, it's about kind of going, okay, I don't have control over where this path is taking me right now. And while you may not love it, accept it and see where Spirit wants to take you now. All right, I'm going to leave it there, Libra. Those are your rather intense messages for the second half of February 2026. And for those of you for whom this made sense and hit home, I hope it was helpful, and I hope it gave you a healthy perspective. Again, if it did, and you would like to perhaps, take a deeper dive, resonates in your own personal life and situation, or you just like the reading style, if you are interested in a personal reading with me for yourself or as a gift for someone else, please feel free to email me directly, Maggie1McGuire@gmail.com. You can click on the description of this video below for those contact details. I would be delighted to hear from you. I will see you all again shortly, of course. Until then, stay well, be safe and blessed, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Bye-bye.